That's the easiest way to do this.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Matty Namer of the FMs.
Fantastic. Now,
Really great to be on your show, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
it's okay. It's not fantastic. But so I'm not sure if you were told this, but during my show, I start off with an icebreaker question just to break the ice before we get into the promo stuff and about who you are. The icebreaker question is, if you could choose to be any animal in the world, and this is this week's one, what animal would you choose to be?
Could it be a unicorn? Can it be a fake animal, a mythical animal?
Absolutely. Mine's a dragon. If I could choose to be a fictional animal, that'd be fantastic. But
unicorn.
Why?
I feel like dragons, though, probably live like lonely lives. They're like kind of up there at the top of the food chain. Very dangerous. They gotta eat people and eat other animals all the time. Everyone's afraid of them. It seems like kind of a lonely life to be a dragon. You're definitely powerful, but like, what does all that power really get you?
True. So why a unicorn?
I don't mean to yuck your yum there. I mean, that's your choice. That's your choice. I'm not. I shouldn't be judgmental about your choice there.
It's fine. We're going to talk about that more. But why a unicorn? Can you explain that end of it?
Yeah, I think I can just kind of identify with them a little bit. They're kind of like they're kind of a bit like rare and mysterious, which I kind of can sort of like identify with. There's like a certain freedom, I think, that like is sort of associated with them. It's not like they have all these like crazy powers necessarily, right? I think that like Pegasus are the horses that can fly, right? And unicorns are the ones that just kind of have the big horn. So it's like kind of like being a horse with a cool big horn, and you're this kind of rare mythical creature, and I'm a unicorn.
That's fair. That's fair. It's about being unique, I think, more than anything else. And you are pretty unique with the FMs. You're a band based out of New York City. I'm in the middle of the prairies in Canada, if you didn't know. And to be honest, I was listening to your music today, and The Implosion, I believe, is the name of the song. Mm-hmm. And it struck a chord in me because your band has a very different look. You've got that the goth look, the androgynous look, and when I looked at that and I listened to the music, I closed my eyes and the music was just like any other music, as far as moving and touching. And a lot of people would look at what you do and look at you on stage and stuff like that, and they would immediately cut off and say, well, I don't want to be a part of that. But I think they're missing out, if that makes sense. I know we went real deep, real fast here. What can you tell me about the connection that you can make with everybody through music, even if the look isn't necessarily what most people would expect?
I think that I know this like sounds a little corny, but I really do believe that music fans are smart in a sense, and they don't you just won't when you're appreciating music, you won't connect with something if it's ingenuine. Like people can immediately tell if people are like full of it. So I think that, and I think it kind of like goes to what you're saying, right? Like it's not necessarily a culture or a scene that you've like felt kind of like a strong identity with necessarily, right? But you kind of can look at us and be like, these people are being themselves and they are letting loose and they're not holding back. It seems like it's just like genuinely who they are. And I think that even like as you an example, like it kind of spoke to you. I think with that song in particular, it was interesting. That was like our first kind of big single. And the video was like kind of honestly like something like people had never really seen before. The subject matter was this incredibly dense kind of like subject matter around the science and creation of the atomic bomb and the sort of philosophical implications of like what that creation meant for humanity afterwards. Sort of living with this sense that at any moment the people that are our leaders could just kind of blow up humanity at any moment, right? Like we kind of grew up knowing this, right? That like if we have a crazy president or we, whatever, like they could just push that orange button and then we're all poof, And there's like, I think there's something to be said about that there's something I think that is doing to our like collective psyche in a sense, So that's kind of what that song was about. And then the video, is really kind of showing us just being who we are, right? Like it has us in the video and it's kind of showing us being who we are, which is, gender queer, it's androgynous, it's not like, just typical fashion, because that's just sort of not who we are, right? So we didn't necessarily feel like just because we're talking about this very serious subject matter that we should not be genderqueer or something with the way we present. It just didn't really occur to us even, but a lot of the feedback that we got, and it was kind of interesting. They're like, I don't understand how these things go together. Are you talking about like a serious subject matter? Why are your outfits so outrageous? Like it doesn't make sense to us. But that was just kind of us being genuine. It was us talking about something we wanted to talk about and being who we wanted to be,
That makes sense. A lot of people get stuck in who they think society wants them to be, and they're never true to themselves. And I think your band, most of the members anyway, from what I was watching, are very true to themselves. And in the world that we're in these days, we have entered a new era of freedom for everyone. It's not the typical gender norms that we used to have, right? So you're in a big city. Have you found that the struggle there to be recognized as who you are has been a large issue, like it would be if you moved to a small town in the Midwest? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that honestly, it has probably been tremendously easier to be expressive about who you are in the big city. I mean, honestly, New Yorkers, just for the most part, they don't really care, or they're like totally unfazed by it. I mean, you could really literally be anybody and you're not going to phase a New Yorker. And that's kind of the truth of it. That's not to say that I haven't like walked down the street and never been like heckled or had people like yell at me or things like that. That's definitely happened to me. It's not to say that it hasn't like been difficult in sort of like other aspects of my life, like even very, self-identified progressive people in a sense, can be kind of judgmental in ways or kind of bigoted in ways, and there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of implicit bias, that people sort of carry about, gender roles and when you sort of step outside of that, it can be difficult in a lot of ways that people wouldn't necessarily expect. We kind of grew up with this gender binary, and there's all kinds of ways that we just have these innate expectations from men to do certain things or women to do certain things, kind of no matter where you are in the world. And I think that like New York City is certainly a place that's a little more open-minded around those things, just because people have seen all kinds of things, so they're not quite as fazed by different things that they see. But it's still a challenge, I think, pretty much everywhere in the world.
Okay, that makes sense. And of course, I'm gonna preface this. I am probably one of the most open people I know, but I still don't understand the struggle. I really don't, because I'm not what you are. Which,
yep.
Does that make sense? It's just like if I said, it's just like if I said I understood the struggle of a black person. It's exactly the same thing. I don't. I'm not a black person, so how would I understand that? Now, your music, when you're performing and when you're writing your music, I apologize for getting off on that bent, but this is a conversation that a lot of people. to understand that we're all human and we should all love each other, whether or not we are gay, straight, black, white. It doesn't really matter. Just love everybody. So
yeah, why not? Right.
Well, that's exactly it. Why ruin somebody else's life just for what you believe in? Just let it go.
Totally believe that too. Yeah.
So the music's the important part of this interview. When you're writing, and from what I was reading, you are one of the main writers of the music, correct?
Yeah.
When you're writing, do you ever feel a connection to something else? I don't mean God or anything else like that, but in Greek mythology, there was a thing called muses. Do you feel a connection to different parts of the world? How does your creative process work?
It's a really interesting question. Yeah, I've like kind of done a lot of interviews and no one's like exactly asked me that question, so it's kind of fun to think about and answer. I don't necessarily. I certainly don't like very directly think that my ideas come from like muses, or my ideas come from like a god, necessarily. I also am not really like an atheist. I don't really necessarily like consider myself an atheist. I don't know. I have like a pretty like varied feelings and thoughts about like spirituality and these kinds of things. I try to keep an open mind with stuff, and I generally think that there's a lot of mysteries of the universe that we don't quite understand yet, which if you kind of look throughout history has always been the case, right? Science has always been able to explain a lot of things, but then there were always mysteries that later on people then uncovered about the way that the universe sort of operates and works. I think that where do I get my inspiration from? I think that a lot of different places. I think that there was a time in my life that I kind of can pretty clearly remember. I went to high school in New York City, and I was in high school when the World Trade Center collapsed. Because, when 9/11 happened, and I kind of had like a turning point in that moment for myself, when I sort of had this feeling that the world was like a very big place, and there was just a lot of interesting things that were going to happen in it throughout my lifetime, and I wanted to kind of have music as a platform to really like communicate about that. So I think that that's kind of been one thing that I've always been really drawn to about music, is that it's this really interesting medium to really communicate about what's happening in society at any given moment.
That makes sense. I was in grade 11 when the Trade Center was brought down. It was a crazy time. So when you're performing, I was reading in an interview, there's a boat somewhere in New York, right, that you perform at. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you just tell me about that?
Yeah, totally. So we have played a bunch of shows and hosted a lot of parties where we've gotten a lot of bands from like all over the country to play on this giant old ferry boat in the middle of Brooklyn. It's kind of a secret spot, if you will. And it's kind of a funny thing because a lot of people that like even live in that neighborhood don't even know that there's this like canal there, that there's like boats and stuff. So I've literally met people that have worked like, maybe 1,000 feet away from where this boat was docked. And they're like, wait, what? There's a boat back there? 150-foot long boat? Like what? Is it dry docked? I'm confused. So yeah, like we hosted this event there called Subvert, where we've had live music combined with sort of a celebration around kink and sex positivity, and sort of had a lot of other fun things like burlesque acts and fire performers and all kinds of interesting things over the years. So yeah, I guess one day, perhaps, when live events happen again and Jesse Lewis is in New York City, perhaps you can come visit it.
I got to get a visa first. They cost too much. Anyway, so I'm going to let you talk about anything you want to now. You know, a lot of people want to hear who you actually are. So is there anything that you want to address during the interview that we haven't addressed already that you want to get out there?
Sure. And well, I can, as you probably noticed, could just literally talk all day about all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But one really big thing that sort of happened for us recently is we released a single yesterday called Silent City, and also released a music video for it. And I'm honestly like really proud of it. You know, it was a song that I wrote and produced and performed a lot of the like instruments and stuff in it. And I wrote this song about a year ago, and the song was about a pandemic hitting New York City. And so when a pandemic did hit New York City a couple of months ago, it was pretty bizarre. We were finishing the masters of this song like right around the same time. And we were like, wow, okay, we should release this song pretty quickly as like a single and do a music video for it. So we, during the month of April, last month, we got really creative with how we could shoot a music video in the age of social distancing. And basically, you know, had a lot of like fans submit footage from around New York City of like empty streets and skylines and just like things that they thought were interesting, you know, giant billboards that said "stay safe." And it was, I think the result was like a very powerful video. We kind of like got creative, and my partner chased me around. We got this like RC car for our dog to chase around, and we have this like beautiful greyhound, and needed like something to like, you know, for her to chase around because she can run at like 40 miles an hour. She's like a little horse. So we got this RC car, and then we realized we could attach a GoPro to it and like turn it on slow-mo and chase me around with it. And it like, you know, just this like little simple thing. It looks like we were like, you know, big budget directors like doing these like cool movie shots and stuff. So I'm really proud of how the video came out, and I would definitely encourage you and everyone tuning into the show to check it out. It's on our YouTube page. If you Google the FMs, you should be able to find it. Or I think if you just go to youtube.com, it's / the FMs, so THEFMS, and you'll be able to find it there. So yeah, that's been a big thing for like me recently. That's just definitely been on my mind, you know, because this was the first release we've done in a long time, and I'm just really proud of how it came out.
Honestly, I went and I listened to 3 or 4 of your songs. I don't remember the names of them because they're brand new to me. But you've actually made a fan out in Saskatchewan, which is weird. But
cool. Nice.
But you know,
fans anywhere. Saskatchewan is great.
The music and the message, it does matter, and it is a positive message that is basically just love everybody and let everybody be who they actually want to be, versus putting our distilled thoughts of stupidity and society onto them. Anyway, before we end the interview, I always ask one last question, and that is real simple. Since we're all locked up, and specifically you're in New York, right? So you're still locked up, are you not?
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, people, as in not allowed to do what normal society does. What's one thing you've done today, not for anybody else, but for you, other than this interview, let's face it, this has been fantastic, that has made you happy? And I don't mean for anybody else. I mean for you personally. This is a hard one for creatives because a lot of us get into depression and sadness quite often. And yeah, so what's that?
I took a moment outside. I put my headphones on and I listened to a bounce of a new song that I'm working on, and that definitely made me happy. So I think that it was just nice to kind of like take 5 minutes, and I hadn't like really listened to the song in like a week. I kind of was like working on it last week, and then was just like kind of revisiting it today and thinking about it. And it's a really beautiful day here today. It's nice and sunny, so I just kind of outside in the nice sunshine and just kind of listening to this new song that I was recording and getting excited about it and imagining what it would sound like finished.
Well, if it makes you happy, that's the only thing that really matters, right? So
yeah,
before I end the interview, I want to thank you very much. For those of you that want to find the FMs, please feel free to do so. And that's the end of the interview. So how we end the interview is we do this. We say bye, and we're all done. So please wave at the camera while I turn it off.
Bye.
Come on, and broadcast.